Hey guys, and this is Wardon in another little tutorial that we have here going on. Now, in this video, we are going to be discussing all the changes that I made into the Weapon Master script. There's quite a few little tiny changes and other things that I would like to discuss in the video. If you have my previous version, this is the upgraded version that works a lot better, that blocks weapons of certain types and gives us the ability to customize characters a little bit better. So, without further ado, we will be looking at some code. So, if this doesn't interest you or you dislike the video, then please hit the dislike or like. But let's get into this. Now, in our old previous version, I had a lot of overriding and things like that. Some of the overriding was not very, you could override it, but there was kind of no point. So let's look at this in a perspective way. I've put some comments in there to help players. Now this right here is not required. This just makes sure that you have a player event slot script, which is our event system that we're using for inputs. You know, whatever input scheme that you have, you would have to probably replace this with your own and write some code into a little bit of everything. So, but I wouldn't know why you would get away from this. But let's just keep this simple. This class is more for bookkeeping, overriding, yada yada yada. I put this abstract so that you have to inherit from this class in order to write anything into it. So you can't add this script directly into a game object because it's a design thing. It's how our pattern is designed. Now I put this little region code in here. If you ever want to get like a little thing where you can just open and close it, all you have to do is type this little asterisk or whatever you want to call it, region, and then put the name. Okay, and then at the very end you can take the name off and you call in region. Okay, that will give you the ability to open and close. You know, it's kind of like a little bit of nice thing. It's not necessary, but it keeps things a little bit more organized for you. I still have this static reference in here, which is not really necessary. I don't even think I use this in any of the code whatsoever, so we could delete this if we wanted to, like so. But I do believe I'll be using this pretty soon anyway. We have a public for our weapon transform. You know, that's for parenting purposes and everything for our weaponry systems. We have to know this transform, so it has to be there. I have this hide and inspector, and I put comments below it. This hide and inspector only hides our bookkeeping value for our weapon actions. Weapon actions is a script. Close all this other stuff because it's not necessary. Not necessary, not necessary. And this. Now let's take a look at weapon actions, just so you know what it looks like and what it does. Weapon actions is just public virtual voids with values set in it. Okay, these are for passing this value into a script. Okay, and you'll see this in a little while. So let's keep that there. We keep a reference to our game object, which in reality, it's for comparison. For when we go to change our weapons, we need this object to be here so we can compare the results. We need a bookkeeping thing of what our current value is. Where are we in our, I would say list, but it's actually each child in our transform. Remember, we need references to this. This is why. We use this transform and then this right here because we go through each child. Okay, when we switch weapons, we use basically all these values except here. This is for pushing values into our weapon class. You know, shoot, run, if we're doing this. Now, this is very important because of we don't want to hard code values and just use get component every single time we spawn a weapon in, because we don't have to. That it's just kind of ridiculous. We would use a get component, push values into the weapon class, and then the weapon class would get component and do something else. It's just seems like a waste of performance to me. So what I did was I used this script right here to push our input values into the class. This is for what child count we're at, because we use child count. This is not being used. This is just for another script that I am writing. This will not be in there. We have a start method. This is where, yeah, I gotta cross that out. That's right. We get our event system, and then we assign the listeners, which we're going to assign listeners to the actual void calls that we have. Now let's look at those void calls. Okay, pickup isn't being done. Event values. We are using this to push into the weapon. Okay, that's all these are for. I did have these virtual functions, which you could still have them if you want to override them. All you have to do is go into here and go virtual. Okay, this will make it overwritable. When you inherit from the class, you can overwrite this. I found that there was no need to have this an overwritable function, and I can put it back to virtual. And what this does is if I do not overwrite this in the class that I'm writing next to it, like weapon manager is a class that we inherit from always, like we do with the mono behavior. See, this mono behavior, this is an inheritance. Okay, we're inheriting from mono behavior. That's why we get to start, update, on collision, all that good stuff. But instead, we inherit from this script for our weapon managers. Now, for the most part, these voids are only for pushing values into our weapon class. That's all they're designed to do. Tell us when we're running, when we change weapons, when to stop. That's all they do. Each one of them. So when we hit a button, it tells the weapon script what to do. Instead of the weapon script getting the values directly, and you know, the problem with it is if we have them do it directly, okay, because we subscribed to it in the weapon script, we have to then unsubscribe. And I found it pointless to go around sitting there unsubscribe, subscribe, unsubscribe, subscribe. It just seems like a waste of time when we could use these to push into the weapon script. Yes, I do have one get component in the start. Well, not actually in the start, but every single time we change the weapon, we change this right here. But in reality, we would have already been doing some forms of this, some form of this. I'd rather do this one get component every single time that I change the weapon versus unsubscribing and subscribing And then we have all the input stuff in the weapon class, and it just becomes messy. So that's why I went in this direction. And we have our start. This is the only thing that this does. We call change, which change is a logic for changing our weapons. It's a public void. I did have this overridable, but I found there was no reason because all of our classes would directly... Actually, I'm going to put this back to virtual in case you do want to change the way the guy changes his weapon for some reason. You know, and when you inherit from this, if you wanted to change it, all you have to do is go override, boom, and then write whatever logic you need for it. But for my case, I'm just going to put this virtual just for, you know, simplest, keeping it simple in case you do. So if you, whenever I publish this to GitHub, you will have the virtual one. Unnecessary, but it works. If gun does not equal null, then we do our loops and stuff. And, you know, get transform, make sure everything's all good. You know, we do it by count versus I. If weapon transform dot get child by I does not equal gun dot transform. So whichever this one is iterating for, if it's not the gun transform, our value up here, oh, bookkeep, our gun right here, this, and we're comparing transforms. If it's not, then we make sure it's off. Okay? And I call this weapon.close. So what's weapon.close? Weapon.close is just a small thing. If gun is not null and weapon actions is not null, then we call weapon actions dot close. This tells our specific gun that we have active to run its animation and, you know, go off screen and disable itself. Whatever logic you put in the gun for weapon close, that is what it will do. Okay? So, for that type, we have that. Ooh, this isn't what I want. Close. Where is our... Oh, here we go. Now, for a weapon index, it equals weapon index plus 1. So we're going up 1. Okay? But we're dividing this by weapon transform dot count. And the reason why we do this is simple. If we go over the count, like let's say we have 10 apples and I wanted to go to 11 apples. Well, this division right here will make me return to 1 again. The first, well, 0, and then it will not let me go overboard and get our array out of bounds and basically crash our program. Now, in other solutions I've seen what this is the problem is if weapon index is greater than or equal to some count, then we do weapon index, if I can type, equals 0. and that's okay, but this is like a lot of code. They had a lot of other logic in there that just seems like it's unnecessary. You know, who I'm not going to sit there and go, hey, if it's over the array, make it equal 0. That's kind of when you could do everything that you need for a count in an array or a list. If you don't want to go over it, just do it like this. Do it something like this, okay? It's the easiest way that you can stop that problem from happening, okay? Now, you'll see the stop coroutine, next weapon, and then start coroutine, okay? The reason why I do this is simple. If we have one coroutine going, like if he's spamming the button down, like bam, change weapon, change weapon, change weapon, change weapon, he's doing that. The problem with that is each time he pushes the button, there's a coroutine running, and you could stack that up and just keep stacking it and stacking it and stacking and just destroy your program's memory and stuff like that. And you could cause an infinite loop or a number of other kind of not so great things happening. Okay? I honestly wouldn't know what to do if I had 10, 15, 20 of the coroutines going at the same time. Your program probably run at like 1 frame and then crash with bugs, but who knows? I just know don't start doing that kind of stuff. So we stopped the coroutine and we started a new one. Okay, and in this I have the weapon transform dot get child at the index. See, we already set the index to go where it needs to go, so we do this dot transform dot game object. This gives us our new game object. Not really a new, like it's been instantiated, spawned, and every single time, but it gets the next weapon in our child count. From the transform.child count, if we got 10 weapons in there, it'll just keep iterating, one at a time, one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. We don't have to have some list that we got to go into or anything like that. It's just amazingly great. I love doing it this way. But you can't have anything but weapons in a transform. That's the thing about this kind of system. So this is an enumeration, and we do while gun does not equal null, so we don't get no null stuff or nothing like that. And gun dot is active. If it's active and it's not null, then it yields. Because the thing about closing our weapon out, we have to wait for the animation, to do its thing, and then the weapon in itself will deactivate, as in game object is no longer active. Okay? So when that happens, or the gun becomes null, if it's deactivated, and it's not null, then it will go past this, okay? It will jump to this line and start doing its code right here, okay? See, what happens if this gun is null? Simple. It automatically skips this junk here and goes down here. So we don't have to worry about null references or nothing like that. When it's deactivated, boom, there you go. It pretty much covers this scenario of null references or anything of that. Okay. Gun equals new gun. So the game object that we passed in is now the value of gun. Now our weapon actions, the thing that pushes our values into our input system, we need to get the component from new weapon dot get component weapon actions, because we want this. We don't care about anything else, because our weapons inherit from so many different things. The only thing that we need are the weapon actions. Those do the input values. So as long as we use this kind of architect, this design, then we don't have to worry about which type it is or anything like that. Because let's look at that real quick. When it comes to a weapon, okay, I have this weapon. Let me pull up one of them if I can find one real quick. Handgun, no. Slot, AR-15, no. Where is that gun? Edit it. It should bring us up. Ah, here we go. The 308. We inherit from sniper rifle. But sniper rifle inherits from weapon actions. We only care about weapon actions. Because when you inherit from something like that, it's a part of it. It's like, okay, every single human being or type of organism has some type of hand, claw. You know, they're so similar. So, and they roughly do about the same stuff, right? You know, somebody's claw, that's they use it for walking or, you know, running or vice versa. Take like the lizard. Its legs don't do much different than the bear. A bear and a lizard. They both have little paws, 4 paws, and they do the same thing. But they're different species, right? So what's the whole point in saying that they do different? They're different. They are visually, but in the mind it looks like they're just used for walking, right? And that's basically kind of what it is in a nutshell, what inheritance is. When I inherit from something, it's a part of me. So when we have our weapon actions, that's all we need. And weapon actions does nothing but input stuff. You can't access anything but what's inside the script, which, you know, that's all we care about. That's what its job is. Now we do new weapon dot set active to true. We've got our new weapon, so we should set it active so it can pull up our visuals, you know, and, you know, rock out or whatever. And I put yield return new, wait for end of frame. Because this is an enumeration, you have to have some type of yielding info in here. If I exit this out, it's going to give us a problem. Because this is an iteration, it must have something. What's the error message again? I can't think of it right now, and it won't bring it up for some reason. Kind of strange. Usually it would. But I just put yield return, wait for end of frame. And the great thing about this, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, is if we're in this loop right here, when I hit stop the coroutine, like if I'm spamming it, it just goes, blip, yep, whatever, I don't care. It won't keep processing it and yielding and yielding and yielding and yielding. It will just fade away, garbage collection, whatever you want to call it. Okay, it'll just stop what it's doing and go, hey, yeah, this sucks, let's leave. Well, you could say it bails out early. So there's that. So we've got changing, we've got that. We did our event values. Well, I guess that's pretty much it, guys. We went over weapon actions, which weapon actions don't even have to be probably an overridable method, but I'll leave it that way. It's good that way. So I'm gonna let you guys go and start doing the typey stuff. Hopefully, and this is a big key thing, is hopefully I get the Patreon stuff going and everything else, so that way I can get a website where you guys can get this type of information on a website and read about it and get a lot more detail than what's in. Because if you want to know something about it, you have to open up your script and start looking. And sometimes you want to hunt down a specific function and what it does. And I think a website would be better suited for this task than to go through in the scripts and find out stuff, because it kind of sucks that way, right? And I get it. And two, some people don't want to watch an hour-long video or 3 or 4 videos just to figure out what's going on. But we can, that'll be the next video. Well, I thank you very much. This is War Dawn, and I am over and out. So have a nice day, guys, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.